Don't say that again. Speak again.
Ah, boy. I got to tell you, messing with you is way too easy.
I've been told.
Walker.
Seth, I'm going to use my testing to apologize on behalf of this crew for the hell we've put you through all year.
Thank you.
And just like that, it's over, folks. The high school football season in the books, and we figured we would come to you the few days after the state championship games have been completed and say, so long. So long. We love you, Seth.
That's
Welcome to the show, guys.
Can we say so long to Georgia State Stadium?
Yes, we can, hopefully.
Goodness. Judd had no idea exactly what I was talking about. He had been in that press box before, in his early days in radio when he did stuff with WSB and the Braves. But he had never broadcast a football game from there. And he walked in, and when the other game is going on, you're walking up there, and he turned around and he goes, "Oh, my goodness, I see what you're talking about."
He didn't believe me.
He did not believe us.
Because
he's talking about the press box.
Yeah, because I told both of them, I said, you're going to be calling the game from where Skip and Pete and all those guys call the Braves games from back in the day at the old Turner Field at Georgia State. And I said, the big board is going to be your friend when they're on the other end of the field.
Well, here's what was going on. In the first quarter, all the action was coming our way. And then somebody has first and goal, and then the quarter ran out.
Yeah. Yeah, so then you got to flip it, of course.
You had to go all the way to the other side. And so, of course, went to a commercial break, and Judd just looks up and he goes, "Of course." And I said, well, of course.
I want to say this about Center Park Stadium real quick, Georgia State Stadium real quick, which is that you are – everything you guys said about the press box situation is valid, but as far as the fans are concerned, which is, the people, as far as people watching this video are concerned, the only complaint that I can levy about that stadium is weather conditions. Because
concessions, $18 for a hamburger and a drink.
Well, that's a different issue. I will say, I thought that there were some great atmospheres for games in that stadium over the years that it was there. I thought that the people there did as good a job as organizing it in that venue as you could have done. And, it needs to be a Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'm glad it's in Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
It's going to be going back.
I'm not saying that. But I do want to say there were a lot of people at Center Park Stadium who did a very good job of putting that event on in a much smaller venue, in a very awkwardly built venue for several years. And there were some really good environments in that stadium over the years. And I feel like the degree to which people just trash it is a little bit unwarranted. The weather concerns I get.
That's why they trash it.
That is why they trash it.
And Mercedes-Benz Stadium is one of the premier venues in America, and it's right across the street. That's the bottom line.
Look, you are absolutely right. I mean, we probably hammered a little bit more than we should. However, there was a story, the GHSA has come out with the numbers. The fans spoke in their 4 years at Georgia State Stadium. Attendance was down anywhere from 30 to 50% compared to what it had been at Mercedes-Benz. It needs to be at Mercedes-Benz.
It does.
Or an indoor facility. That's the only one we have in the state. That's where it needs to go. Of course, it is one of the great places to watch a game probably in the world, much less the United States. And to have that and not use it has kind of been a crime, but they're gonna solve that.
Let's go back to when they decided to bow out of Mercedes-Benz. You can't blame the GHSA for doing it. Talking like $600,000 over the 3 or 4 days they had the games in it in 2018. So that's part of the reason that they left the stadium in the first place. That's a lot of money to pay for a venue. But
look,
now
I agree.
What I have been told that the Falcons have gotten together with the GHSA and they've come up with a solution and a plan, to get the games back into Mercedes-Benz because that's where they should be played. They're played in Texas at the big AT&T Stadium. Right. They're played at Indianapolis and the stadium there.
Michigan plays in the Lions Dome.
Yeah,
up
so
there.
it's just and part of the thing is when you have a stadium that has every high school football helmet already in it,
why aren't you there?
Why aren't you there?
Why aren't you there?
So, but that's really cool. That it's going back to Mercedes next year. Now, guys, a couple things before we get to the Gainesville-Langston Hughes State Championship game. Sandy Creek.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Cedar Grove. This has brought on some talk, guys, about bringing instant replay into Georgia high school football. What say you?
Well,
Yes.
Go ahead, Walker.
I mean, you look back at all the different controversies that the GHSA has had in state finals, even down to Macon Coliseum for basketball, the goals being off. Not that replay would help that, but I think that there was some sort of replay scenario with a basketball game in 2020, 2019, something like that. And now you fast forward to this debacle where the guy wasn't even within reaching the ball out to the goal line. He's still a half yard short if he does that. You've got to be able to do instant replay, especially with all the cameras that Georgia Public Broadcasting brings in for this thing. The stadiums are already set up for video replay because they're Division I FBS, so they've got the ability to do it, have a replay room and everything like that. It's a no-brainer. You've got to go to instant replay.
Well, I agree. I think that having a mistake like that and the ability to correct it so that you get it right, there needs to be something in place that can be done. But where does this stop? I mean, if you do the finals, do you do the semifinals, and then you've got all these classifications, you have so many games because, something's going to happen in the semifinals somewhere where like, okay, we need, now we're at the semifinal stage, we need replay here because of this. I don't know that it's going to be something that's theoretically possible, from a technology standpoint, because I don't know that there is enough to be able to do that. And then what about other sports? You mentioned basketball, baseball. I mean, we've had some controversies in the past in baseball. I mean, you could even go to like soccer. What happens if they have a disputed goal in a state championship game? And I don't know that opening that Pandora's box, I don't know where do you stop and just go, we're only going to do football.
I think it's a good idea. That my larger concern is not about that. I'm not worried about that because I think we've all had the conversation for years in that state championship game of, well, we can't do it because we don't have it all year, and then everybody goes, yeah, but we do have it right here. So why do we have it and not use it? That kind of thing. I don't have a problem with that. My larger concern is, okay, the GHSA's never handled instant replay before,
right?
And that was the argument that some people were against this and about that. That was part of the argument against it.
They're going to have to organize this. So who's the one doing the reviewing of the replay? Is it the head referee on the field, or is it an official that you put in the press box? Who is the one actually reviewing the replays in these state championship games? So that's got to get worked out. Yeah, there's logistical things that places where replay has been done for years, they've already had figured out because they've had time to work through it. There's also going to be growing pains the first time this gets used, that sort of thing. So I'm not necessarily against it, but I do think it's not going to be as clean. It's not going to be as clean as flipping a light switch on. There's going to be some growing pains if you decide to implement it.
Well, when you look at the instant replay, it's going to come in at some point, and they're going to have to say, okay, here's what we are going to look at. It's going to be scoring plays only.
Yeah, be clear. Be clear about what the rules are.
Be clear about what the rules are. Now, in the technology of today, when you have football programs with the huddle units and everything that they have down the sideline, they're watching instant replay, albeit, from above, not a close-up view of the play, but they can see the action and adjust their players or adjust their scheme to whatever the offense or defenses are doing.
Yeah, when I go to games right now, like when you walk around the sideline at games, like even the bad teams, even the teams that don't have a ton of resources money-wise, they're doing exactly what you're talking about. Even they've got tablets where they're pulling up the replays of what's just happened and going
TVs.
over it with their TVs on the sideline, things like that. So I don't know how feasible it is. I do think that you've got to draw a line somewhere and say, I think starting it just in the state championships is probably a good place, and then it's going to have to be limited to whatever the technology allows, because it's a more extensive technology than something as simple as, like, say, the shot clock in basketball, where it's you have one device, it's got one button, and that's all that there is to it. This is obviously a much more detailed, complex thing, and so I don't think it's going to be as easily implemented in a regular season as the shot clock in basketball is. But I do think it's a good idea.
I don't know, man. Did you not watch basketball last year?
Yeah, well,
and how difficult, of course, getting that learning
Right.
curve
but
of
again,
when
that,
to reset and
that
everything.
goes back
but
to what
yes.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
And there's going to be the same thing with replay where the referees are going to have to get used to the first time it get used. There's going to be a little bit of a like, okay, what are we doing?
Look,
are we sure we're doing it
what-
right?
what-
All you got to do is just call New York.
Right.
Right. Call Birmingham.
I tell you one thing that
Gene's
we've all-
territory.
Yeah, there you go.
One thing we've all
Jeez,
kind
territory.
of shook our heads about over the last couple of years is how long some of these games are taking. We've complained about 3-hour plus games on TV, that the games that are televised. So now you start, even though let's say it's only state championship games, now you start throwing a replay in the mix where somebody wants to challenge something, and they may have to take 5 minutes to see if they even have an angle. You're really going to
see, that's-
completely disrupt the flow of the game.
Right, and that's where I said, okay, we're just going to review scoring plays in the beginning. That's how we're going to start the process of instant replay. Just going to be scoring replays, and we're going to be set up to do that. I don't think you need to allow coaches to walk around with a red flag in their back pocket
No, I don't
to
think
be
so
able
either.
to,
what-
appeal certain calls, because then again, to your point, Jeff, you are going to get into much longer situations in games, especially when we have TV timeouts and broadcasts.
Well, what if that play had been a 4th and 1 at the 30 in the final 40 seconds and clearly doesn't make it? They give them the first down, the team goes on to score. I mean, that play would be just as critical as a scoring play.
No, it would be, but you're going to have to start somewhere if you're
Well,
going to
somebody is
implement
going.
instant
Somebody,
replay.
somebody's going to challenge all this. I
Do-
mean, that's
do
why I don't
any-
know if you should even start it.
Do any of us actually believe the GHSA is going to fully implement replay at any point?
No.
I'm not
in the
convinced
next
it's
12
I'm not,
months.
I'm not convinced it's going to happen yet.
Well, I'm not either, but I think we also many years ago thought, well, they probably won't do a shot clock in basketball, but now they have it.
Oh, I've been begging for one of those for years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
but-
too.
Yeah.
I agree
But
with that. And
but
again,
it took them 10 years.
Oh, I know.
So-
But I've said for years that if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said the same thing I just said earlier, which is that I don't think these are comparable issues because the technology for replay is so much more involving than the technology for a shot clock. Like it's a way more complicated thing to run than a shot clock.
Well,
is.
that's true.
All right, guys, let's get to the Class 6A state championship game. Gainesville, Langston Hughes. Jeff, you were there. Seth, you were there. Gainesville falling a touchdown shy of the Class 6A state title game. But man,
I like how you treat it like it was. I had this dream, and Jeff, you were there, and Seth, you were there.
it was everywhere.
I would like to get Seth's perspective. He was on the field. You know,
Well, first off,
okay.
Gainesville held Langston Hughes way under their offensive average
way under.
as
Way
far as
under.
scoring average goes.
Well, both. 336. I got the stats right here.
We're going to get Jeff's stat of the show. Did you
No,
ever
we-
get one?
I mean, if I have a stat of the show,
Okay,
we'll just
roll
go ahead
it.
and do that.
Here's some things you need to know.
It's Jeff Hart's interesting stat of the show.
Okay. Still, it's in my head again. God,
Dun, dun,
that drives
dun,
me
dun,
nuts.
dun,
I'd
dun.
sing it all day long.
It's kind of like that.
That's a new one. What is that? What are you
it's
going to
kinda
put
like
with that?
O'Reilly's Auto Parts
Oh, is it?
commercial. Yeah.
If I guess
A little bit, yeah.
It was, ow!
this show has gone off the rails.
Did,
Just
They are
read
not
the
a
stats.
when did
sponsor
it
of
ever
this show.
we
On the
have a
rail.
Michael Jackson appearance on the show? What was that?
If I had a stat of the week, I guess it's kind
King of
of
pop. Caleb's
Gainesville
the king
being
of poop.
beaten at their own game.
Oh, yeah?
From the standpoint that we talked last week when we were looking at some of the key stats on some of these things, the special teams and Gainesville's ability to break big kickoff returns and punt returns never really materialized for Gainesville. Hughes did a great job of kind of pooch kicking and taking it out of the hands of Darius Cannon. And when he did finally get to touch one, they hammered him and he fumbled. And that kind of created, that was a wild 1 minute to end the first half.
You look back at the game, that fumble kick return might have been the most important play in the entire football game.
It might have been, except, Gainesville got it to 29-21. They had all the momentum, and then their kick returner, broke one for a touchdown. And that ended up being really the key score.
The stat of the show.
And so I guess if you had one, Gainesville, had really made a living of beating the other teams with their special teams and got beaten by the special teams in that game, because when you look at the offensive and defensive numbers, they held Hughes to 73 yards rushing. I mean, that was a team that was averaging right at 200 yards a game on the ground. They held Aaron Nolan to 263 yards passing. That seems like a big number, but, you know, they were averaging almost like 600 or over 500 yards a game in offense. Then we had 336. Gainesville had 303 and outrushed them, you know. But, that Hughes defense was really quick. Gainesville only once really took a shot downfield. No criticism. I thought the game plan was fantastic. Gainesville executed. I mean, it really was a one-score game. One play, you know, Gainesville could have had a shot to win that game. I mean, they were right there. They played them better than anybody had played them all year. I just would have liked to seen them be able to just try going deep a couple of times. Somebody falls down. It was wet. It was slippery out there. You know, they really didn't go deep. They didn't really challenge that secondary kind of the way I thought they might. And not a criticism, but I just wonder if they had taken a few shots downfield, what might have happened.
I just remember that last 4 minutes of the game just turning around twice, and we had 90 seconds on the clock. I remember looking up and saying, okay, 4 minutes, something can happen here. Something can definitely happen here. And then turn around twice, 90 seconds left.
Yeah. It's funny because the old joke about you get up and go to the bathroom and come back and look. Literally, I was watching the game on stream because I was out of town that night, and I'm watching the game on stream, and literally what you just said, there were 4.5 minutes to go, and I literally got up to go to the bathroom and came back, and there were 30 seconds left, and Hughes was running the clock out.
Yeah, Gainesville just could not get a stop when they needed to make a stop, and, you know, Hughes' big offensive line, big running backs, you know, Aaron Nolan, they had the tight end that's going to Ohio State.
You okay over there?
A little squeakiness over here.
What is going on?
Just a little bit.
My headphones started just going crazy.
You just see, like, Jeff rolling and talking, and then Bo's over here in the corner just like.
I'm like, okay, I got to fix this.
Well, I figured he was about to raise the table and make me look like, you know, I was like.
No, he knows not to do that because don't do it. Don't do it. It messes with the shot. Don't do it.
So I'm gonna give another thing that I thought was really key in this ball game as to why Gainesville ultimately wasn't able to get it done. Although again, they played extremely well.
Oh, they played great.
I said, you know, in the Pick'em show leading into the game that I thought what was going to keep Gainesville in the game was their ability to hit the big play at any moment from anywhere on the field. That really never happened.
Well, that's
and Gainesville, I was actually really impressed that Gainesville was forced to play a style of ball offensively that they hadn't had to play all year because Langston Hughes, because of the defense Gainesville was facing and the conditions on the field, Gainesville was never able to pop the big play. As a result, they had to grind it out. They were actually able to do that really well, but again, look back. I'm looking at Naeem Cheeks, 55 yards on the ground. That's not a terrible game. Baxter Wright, 65 yards on the ground on the quarterback spot, but look at the yards per carry. 3.2, 3.1 yards per carry. You look at the receiving. Travion Watson had a huge game, but outside of that, it's a lot of, you know, averages of 5 yards a catch, 7 yards a catch, something like that. Nobody for Gainesville was having that big explosive game or made those big explosive plays. And literally, I think if Gainesville gets 2 of them over the course of the game, you're looking at a totally different outcome in this ball game. And they had hit them in chunks all year, and it just never happened.
Right. Look, I thought, you know, it's 9-6 with 59 seconds to go, and then you have the disaster 1 minute, and then you turn around and it's 23-9 or 23-6, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, you know, the Hughes they got the little run on them right there. Gainesville looks like they're going to go into the half demoralized, you know, because
it didn't happen.
No, I talked to Coach Niblet. They made some adjustments at halftime, and when they came out, you know, they took that opening drive and just went right down and got back in the game, and you could just see the whole team. You know, if you look down on the sideline afterwards, after that score to cut into the lead, you know, you could tell they were in the game. They were ready, and you know, again, they got it to 8. They got it to within 1 point. Then they got it to within, you know, 1 score. They got it to within, you know, a touchdown. So Gainesville did everything that they could really do to win the game. It literally, in my opinion, turned on the kickoff return was huge. Of course, the 14 points there at the end of the half. if they're somehow able not to fumble the kickoff or make a stop, Gainesville not only could win the game, probably would have won the game. And I think that's all you can really ask. How many people gave them a legitimate shot to win the game?
Outside of us, in terms of
us,
right?
In terms of media around the state, I think we were the only ones that really gave them much of a shot.
Right. And and I know I picked Hughes to win that game, but I tell you what, I would not have been surprised if Gainesville won that game. I thought that they could be in the game if they had some things go the way. T-Lander in that defense was outstanding. T-Lander had 4 tackles for loss themselves, a couple of sacks.
13 tackles, 9 unassisted.
Yeah, he was crazy all over the field.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, and that defense played great. I mean, that tight end, number 33, Seth, how big was that guy?
Stinking huge.
Huge.
Absolutely
huge. I mean,
huge.
there were a couple of times we're up in the press box looking at the matchup, and it looked like me trying to cover Andre the Giant. I mean, it was that guy was
just
huge.
They had some legitimate,
wow.
That's a really fun visual
human
right
beings
there.
out there.
Jeff and Andre the
I
Giant.
feel like
that's funny.
I'm done. I'm out.
I feel like
I'm out.
we need to try to create what you just said.
Welcome
Yeah.
onto the boat, Jeff.
I think we should. Hey,
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you very much.
But overall, what Gainesville did this season was just crazy.
Well, it was fun.
It was fun. It was awesome. It was I don't think you want to call it a Cinderella ride because it's really not kind of a Cinderella story, but
about halfway through the season, I think we all started
maybe
to
an
believe that
underdog story.
Yeah, I think that. Look, they were the underdogs in probably
Cinderella
every
story.
round.
That's giving me Caddyshack vibes.
Yeah.
Oh Lord,
It might be the last time in a long time they're underdogs, too.
Yeah.
Well, it
Oh, yeah.
could be. I mean, we'll have to see what the makeup of the team is going to be. I mean, you're losing a lot of playmakers.
18 seniors.
So
19?
something like that. You're losing T-Lander, you're losing Darius Cannon, you're losing Trey Reese.
But you do bring back
Dime
a guy.
Cheeks.
You do bring back a guy who I thought stole the show for Gainesville in this game, which was Baxter.
Oh,
Wright.
yeah.
I totally agree.
I
think
thought Baxter Wright's numbers, they don't look crazy. 191 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 65 yards rushing and a touchdown. It doesn't look crazy, right? But when you watch the game and you realize how good that Langston Hughes defense is and take into account what I just said about the fact that Gainesville didn't run the ball horribly effectively. They didn't hit the big plays. Baxter Wright was creating a lot of stuff himself.
He's a gamer, man.
Yeah,
You-
absolutely.
if you look at
One more year. I mean, one more off season for him going into his senior year.
If
He's going to be one of those players that is put up on top.
If he improves as much from this season to next season
yeah.
as he did from 2021 to 2022, you're looking at a Power 5 quarterback.
Yeah.
I could be. I think he was the most improved player in the area when you look at kind of where he was his first year plus of running that Gainesville offense, a new system. He got better and better as the season went on. You talk about his numbers don't look great. He was 22 for 34, 191 yards. The key thing there is a 0 in the interceptions. He didn't make any mistakes. He didn't fumble the ball. There were a couple of times when he kind of needed to take the offense kind of in his hands and get them moving, and he did that. I don't think there's absolutely nothing that you can complain about from the quarterback position and what he gave you, and he put his team in a position to have a shot to win, and that's all you can ask for. This Gainesville team, I think about halfway through the season, I think we probably all started going, hey, you know what? This team may have something. When they got through they got down at North Forsyth and they made that comeback. And I think right then we go, you know what? This team has learned how to handle adversity and go on and win. And then you look at the playoffs, probably the last 4 rounds, they were not favored. Even though they were a region champ, they weren't favored. And I don't think in any. The first round, I think they were favored over Sprayberry. But we heard going into every round in the playoffs, well, this is going to be this is the team. They're not going to be able to match up with this offense. They're not going to be able to match up with this defense. And they just proved everybody wrong all the way up through the finals in a game they had a shot to win.
Well, guys, it's time to get to the picks.
What picks?
Yeah, we're not doing any
picks.
picks.
No picks.
Welcome to the Friday Game Night Bowl Pick'em, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
there you go. All right,
Here we go.
so who won the playoff championship?
Me and Caleb came in tied, and Caleb beat me by a game.
Oh,
There we go.
So congratulations to Caleb on his
As far as
state
I'm
championship
out,
win.
and
I
if
do
you're
wanna
not
point out-
first,
Hold on, we got something from
What?
Walker.
oh jeez,
I haven't heard from him in a
Point
minute.
out, as everybody remembers, I picked all 8 games plus against the spread.
Oh,
I
here
got
we go.
14 of the 16 right. That's impressive on my part.
You didn't
Also,
get it.
wasn't one of the ones you got
Could
wrong
you-
the Cedar Grove Sandy Creek game?
No,
Wasn't
I got that one right.
You got that right? Oh, okay. All right.
Can
I got
you,
that one, I
can
got
you
that one
tap
right, even
your-
though I should have gotten it wrong. I got it right.
Hey, go ahead and tap yourself on the back. Pat yourself. There you go. Good job. Good job,
I
Walker.
should've
Well,
gotten it
all I
wrong
can tell you,
because-
if you're
Yeah,
not
but-
first, to quote the famous Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. So I didn't
do
win.
feel a bit-
So I feel like I finished last.
I do feel a bit bad for Walker because he might have been the best picker on the show the entire season, and he won neither of the competitions.
1-0. You won nothing.
And liking
Fine.
it.
Except
And liking
except
it.
a raggedy old coat.
I've already said Lanierland's coming and challenge me in a bowl pick 'em. Let's go.
Lanierland.
Hey,
does that
Lanierland
mean-
is
Does that
coming.
mean we're going to do a basketball pick'em show?
We are. We're going to start a basketball pick'em show for the remainder of the year. So buckle up and get ready to go on that one. And we're going to see how that one goes.
Does this mean I'm going to have to come up with a stat of the show for boys and girls on both, or what?
Jeff's Hart stat of the show.
Ow! Look, I love having backup singers. Thank you much.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Overall, football season of the books. Everybody happy with it?
I thought it was a fun season. When you have a team that runs to the finals, that always
course.
makes it a little
Why
more
is there
fun.
laughter?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Somebody's messing with the buttons over there.
Seth, what are you doing?
Oh, he's
Hey,
looking
there
for the
we go.
music.
Oh,
Roll the music.
There we go.
I thought it was a very fun season. It was a season of transition, lots of new coaches. I think we're going to have a little bit more stability heading into next year.
We hope.
And I'm very interested to see what that brings.
Hey, by the way, Stuart Cunningham, the new Chester T head football coach. Congrats to him.
Absolutely.
The newest hire. Hadn't heard anything from Jackson County yet, though.
Not yet, not
So,
on Jackson County, and there's still some. There's quite a few openings around the state, so we could be losing some good assistants in the area. We'll have to see how that all plays out.
All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys go so you can go get my Christmas present. Just leave it on my desk, and I'll do the same for
wait,
you guys.
You're not getting
Okay.
us one. We
Merry
have to
Christmas.
Give you
Oh,
one.
there you
Thanks.
Here
Yeah,
you have
Merry
the
Christmas
stats
to you.
from
Yeah.
from the
He
All
gives
right.
you something very special.
Walker. Oh, thank you. Walker will be in town coming up, next week?
Wow.
Walker's-
Yeah, we should get down starting next week. We're there for about 2.5 weeks, especially for Lanierland. Can't wait to be in the building.
Gonna have to get you in the
Awesome.
building. Maybe we can do the show with you in the building.
I don't know if
coming
I'll
up
be able to
next week.
recognize you in person.
Yeah. Well.
So basically, what I'm hearing is when Jeff's sitting right next to me for Lanierland, he's not going to.
He's going to have no clue
Who is this
you
guy
are.
sitting next to me?
All right, guys, let's get out of here. I think our music's about to run out for the entire crew. Thanks for watching the Friday Game Night Pick'em Show 2022. So long. Bye-bye. Merry Christmas.
Later.
Bye-bye.